To quickly recap, in our last video, we talked about what happens when you finish your manuscript and you move into revisions and start shopping around for editors to take your manuscript from its draft form into a publishable book. After filming that video, I started to think about what you as authors might most want to know about the editing process, just beyond the overview of who you can hire and where to hire them. And I thought about my experience with first working with editors on my own books and working with my publishing house, Daily House, to hire editors for other authors. Also working with my business partner at Daily House, who was an acquiring editor for traditional publishing houses and then went into indie and worked freelance as an editor. And I found over a period of 5 years that there were a lot of misconceptions that were shared by me and other authors. And I wanted to kind of correct those ideas and just kind of take a look back to the past and tell you how editing has changed, what to expect, and make the process fun and easy for you. When I first started researching this video, I thought about where I got my ideas about what editors did, and I immediately thought of Max Perkins. He's probably one of the most famous editors out there. He's famous for discovering and cultivating authors like Ernest Hemingway, Scott Fitzgerald, and Thomas Wolfe. I found that there was a biography, both in book form and in movie form, about him, and it's called Genius. I didn't have time to read the whole book about Max for this video, so I did watch the movie. And really, it's amazing how far we've come in 100 years. And he was working with these authors about 100 years ago. In the movie, it shows Max getting deliveries of manuscripts that are literally truckloads. I mean, we're talking bins and bins. I mean, this might be a little bit of an embellishment for the story, but I do believe that, he found these authors through connections, through personal referrals, and was willing to work with them in a way that no editor today would do so. In the movie, they show him working with Thomas Wolfe, and he received, about a manuscript of 1 million words, half of it handwritten, half of it typed, pages out of order, and they show him redlining, extensive, like what you and I might write as a full novel. He's redlining out, okay, and working with very eccentric personalities, giving them his own personal money, his time, beds in his home, going to that extent. Now, editing is nothing like that today. There are all sorts of specialty editors, as we talked about in the last video, but more so, editors are extremely overworked and very underpaid, and they are not going to spend the time cultivating you as an author or me as an author. In publishing houses, so kind of here's one of the first misconceptions that we have. When we sell our books to a publisher, an acquiring editor, an editor is the person that most likely will buy or greenlight your book. Now, as an indie, you're going to be hiring your own editors, and you're going to be selecting them. I'll link to a card up above for the video that I filmed last week and uploaded a couple of days ago, if you want to go over the types of editors that you might hire. But what's going to happen with any of these editors is you're going to engage them, and then you're going to provide your manuscript. Now, here is an old-fashioned way of thinking of things again. 5 years ago, when I started in this business, most editors would only accept Word documents, and they would work on them for a period of weeks or months, and then return the manuscript to the author for them to go over the red lines and the markup and the track changes and the comments. And it would go back and forth like that. Here is a wonderful thing that's happened in the way I work and the way that I insisted on working and now has become mainstream is cloud-based documents. So I work in Google Docs, you might work in Scrivener, you might work in specialty software for novelists or for authors. However, I find that Google Docs works best for me. It's very simple, and I can outline my manuscripts in Google Docs. But the wonderful thing about it is when the editing happens, when you go into editorial, you share your document in the cloud with your editor of choice, and you're working real time with them. Okay, so it's instant gratification. Some editors still will not do this, but I don't work with editors that don't. If it's in the cloud, you can see as they are making changes, so track changes, making comments, and you can correct as they go. You can respond to comments as they go. Therefore, it's a dialogue, and it's an organic, changing document, and it is so very satisfying to be able to work that way. Now, you may not even know about what I'm talking about when I say track changes, comments, redlining. This was something else that I was had a misunderstanding about, and actually worked as an editor and didn't even realize that I was doing it incorrectly. And this is that editors will not rewrite for you. They're not going to change your words. They're not going to change your punctuation. They will turn on track changes, and if they make any changes in the actual manuscript, it will be in a comments area where you can accept or reject the change down to commas. They're not going, even if it's a very obvious spelling mistake, they're not going to just correct it. You're going to need to agree to it. Okay, so the track changes. They are going to make comments, and you're going to rewrite where they make those comments. They're not going to rewrite or write new paragraphs for you, write new sections for you. There are some editors that do, and these are kind of very codependent, old Max Perkins style editors, and you can still find them, and they're very, very rare. But typically, an editor is going to be able to elevate your manuscript a couple of notches above what it is. Okay, so they can't turn a turd into a diamond, or they're not going to be willing to do so. They're going to make comments, allow you to develop areas that are underdeveloped. They're going to make suggestions and redline where corrections are needed, and you will accept or reject them. And when you're doing it in the cloud, it's real time, so it's excellent. But like in the movie Genius with Max and Thomas Wolfe, the editor is not going to be writing the book for you. Although my partner at Daily House would write books for people, but it's ghostwriting really. And, call it what you will. But if they're writing it for you, and you're just saying yes or no to chapters of a book, sections of a book, that really is ghostwriting. I had understood when I started working in publishing that traditional publishers do at least 7 passes through editing before a book is ready for publication. Well, I found out that it's actually more, and I thought that was a ridiculous amount of passes. But now that I'm working on fiction and fiction editing and my own fiction, you need many, many, many passes through, and looking for different things with different types of editors that have different specialties. So it takes 7 passes at least, and it will take months. A good editor will probably work on your manuscript for a couple months. A proofreader takes at least a couple of weeks. You're going to need at least, those 2 types of services to get your book into the shape that it would be if, like, a big house, a Random House imprint or whatnot were taking over your book. And what I want to show you is what all the steps are if you're recreating the traditional process. Now, rapid release is a different thing, and I'll do videos on that, and I will specifically tell you if it's a rapid release type of technique. But what I'm talking about is the process I'm going through my book to as closely replicate the traditional quality and the traditional steps and the traditional process of creating a exemplary novel. Okay, so I hope that answered some of your questions about editing, maybe reassured you. I know that hearing that it takes so long is not going to make you happy, but it is worth the effort to get a flawless book. So I hope you enjoyed that lesson. In the next video, I think we're going to be moving into formatting the book once it has gone through proofreading a couple of times. And we're going to be talking about Vellum, the software Vellum for formatting, which is amazing software, very much recommended. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you guys in the next one.